Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Public Accounts says a final agreement with Takatso's quest to acquire 51% stake of SAA should be finalized by mid-2022. This follows oversight visits to numerous state-owned entities, including the embattled carrier. Business reporter Tumisang Ndlovu has more.
Almost a year after the Public Enterprise Ministry announced that Takatso would be acquiring a majority stake in SAA, there's still no definitive reasons behind the delay. Following oversight visits to state-owned entities, Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Public Enterprises says there are still some outstanding conditions before the deal can be finalized. But aviation analyst Guy Leach says he's not convinced that the Portfolio Committee's optimism that a final deal will be reached by mid this year is achievable.
With a significant change in the shareholding of the airline, it's meant that all the key licenses and approvals will have to be redone. The most important of those is what's called the Aircraft Operator Certificate, the AOC, and that could take up to 2 years to get approved. Now, hopefully it won't take that long, because it is in the remit or the control of the Civil Aviation Authority to issue that. And, well, you know, it's not exactly a completely new business. It has to be inspected from the very beginning. SAA is a well-known entity, and it should just be perhaps a 6-month process in that regard, or perhaps even less. But then there are other factors. There are code share agreements, which are absolutely essential for the re-establishment or the restoration of SAA's international network. And at this stage, the airline is only really flying domestically and regionally in Africa. But if it's going to be even a shadow of its former self, it needs to start flying to international destinations sooner rather than later. We believe, too, that there's going to be a competition approval requirement for this. I don't know how long that will take. And then there are the actual, what are called the bilateral agreements. Those are, if you like, the individual route approvals or licenses from the Air Services Licensing Council.
Leach also expands on other technical matters that may prolong finalization.
There's always in the details in these sort of things. It was always an extremely strange sort of deal, it has to be said, because SAA, although they were on face value selling 51% of the airline, they still wanted what was called a golden share to be able to retain ultimate control over the airline, and they still were insisting on a development mandate for the airline, which would make it more difficult, if not impossible, for it to make profits. So a lot of us waited with bated breath to see what was going to happen, and a due diligence was duly launched, and it ground on and on and on. And we again began to suspect that, well, maybe the due diligence had encountered many more problems, more, if you like, worms than we had originally expected. But much to our surprise, what was it, a few months ago, it was announced that the due diligence was finally complete and it was go, and that all that was remained were a few regulatory requirements.
For now, the notion is still, time will tell whether the SA Airways Takatso deal will finally see the light of day. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Tumisang Ndlovu in Johannesburg.